Warning: viewer discretion is advised.
Let's hear this joke. Give us your best one.
One of the guys that guards Buckingham Palace, you know, with the tall black hands,
Yeah.
they called the beef eaters. One of them is being court-martialed. The head of the court-martial says, "Hey, Smythe, I hear it says here that you flinched. Tell us, when did you flinch?" He says, "Well, your lordship, it's like this. I'm standing there with my piece on my shoulder, my bearskin hat on my head, my eyes straight ahead like the good book says, and I see this squirrel running across the courtyard from the right side, runs up my right pant leg and lodges in my crotch." I say, "Smythe, is that when you flinched?" He says, "No, your lordship, I'm standing there with my piece on my shoulder, my bearskin hat on my head, my eyes straight ahead like the good book says, and I see the squirrel running across the courtyard from the left side. He runs up my left pant leg and lodges in my crotch." He says, "I say, Smythe, is that when you flinched?" He says, "No, Governor," he says, "I'm standing there with my piece on my shoulder, my eyes straight ahead like good book says, and your bearskin hat on my head. I hear one squirrel says to the other, 'Let's eat one now and save the other for later.' That's when I flinched." This fellow staggers into the bar and he says to the bartender, he says, "Don't have any money, but I got a good act and you can put on for maybe some of your clients will like it, and you'll give me a couple of drinks." He says, "The bartender says, okay, let me see what you got." So he hauls out of his pocket a little baby grand piano, this big, with a little bench in front of it, and hauls out of another side pocket, little guy this tall, seats in front of the piano, and he plays Bach and Mozart and Ravinsky, and he plays all the wonderful, wonderful pieces. The bartender says, "Where did you get an act like that?" And he hauls a bottle out of another pocket and he says, "I was walking on the beach and I stumbled on this bottle. When I pulled out the cork, a genie came up and he gave me one wish." He says, "You mind if I try it?" He says, "No, go ahead." Bartender pulls the cork out. Out comes the genie. Genie says, "One wish, master." He says, "I'd like $1,000,000. And immediately there were 1,000,000 ducks jumping up and down and flapping across the bar and quacking. He said, "I said $1,000,000, not 1,000,000 ducks." He said, "The genie's a little hard of hearing. You don't suppose I asked for a 12-inch pianist, do you?"
Go
It
for
was
it.
a national poetry contest. The finals were being held in Washington, D.C. And the finalists were a young man from Yale and an old Georgia redneck. And the format was that they were given the name of the city and they had 2 minutes to look at it and think about it and make up a poem. So the young man from Yale went first and he looked at it, and the name they gave him was Timbuktu, the city of Timbuktu. Thought about it a minute, 2 minutes. He says, "Across the burning desert sand, trekked a lonely caravan. Men on camels, 2 by 2, destination Timbuktu." And everybody applauded because that was such a wonderful poem on such short notice. The old Georgia redneck rides up to the microphone to give him the same name of the same city, Timbuktu. He looks at it for a couple of minutes, and he says, "Me and Tim a-hunting went. We met 3 whores in a pop-up tent. They was 3 and we was 2. I bucked 1 and Tim bucked 2. All right.
Go for it.
This hotel was restricted. No Negroes, no Mexicans, no Jews were allowed. And finally, after several years, they were going broke and realized they needed the Jewish clientele in order to make money. So they lifted the restriction. Abe Cohen checks into the hotel, gets into the elevators on his way up. And he sees this tall, distinguished gentleman standing next to him. He says, "Hello," he says, "my name is Abe Cohen." The fellow looks down his nose at him and says, "My name is Brown, B-R-O-W-N. My father's name was Brown. B-R-O-W-N. My grandfather's name was Brown, B-R-O-W-N. And I'm white from the top of my head to the tip of my toes. Abe says, well, he says, my name is Abe Cohen. He says, C-O-H-E-N. My father's name was Cohen, C-O-H-E-N. My Zeddy's name was Cohen, C-O-H-E-N. And I'm white from the top of my head to the tip of my toes, except my asshole is brown, P-R-O-W-N. Man went to rabbinical school in Cincinnati. He graduated as a fully ordained rabbi. He was assigned to a small town in North Dakota. And after 3-4 months, he began to get quite horny. He's a young man in his 30s, and it's been 3-4 months already without a woman. So he decided that he can't do it, can't look for somebody in this town. He has to go down the road because it's a small town, everybody will talk. So he goes to the next town down the highway, and he knocks on the door of this brothel, and the madam opens the door and recognizes him, because after all, it's a small area. And says, come right in, Rabbi, come right in. I'll take good care of you. He goes upstairs with the girl. She says, you want the lights on or off? He says, oh, leave the lights on. And she gets into bed, and he starts to get undressed. She takes one look at him and says, oh, you're too big for me. I can't handle anybody as big as you are. See, we have to send up Susan. Susan comes up, says, you want the lights on or off? I can take care of you. He says, I'll leave the lights on. She says, okay, hops in bed, and he finishes getting undressed. She takes one look at him and says, oh, no, you're too big for me. I can't handle anybody as big as you. We gotta send Dolly up here to take care of you. So she goes down, and Dolly comes up, and Dolly says, do you want the lights on or off? He figures this time we better have the lights off. She says, okay, and then she hops into bed. He finishes undressing, get into bed, and they start to make love, and she says, you know, Rabbi, I understand that Hebrew people don't believe in Jesus Christ.
Go.
So old man was lying in the hospital. He sees a nurse walking down the corridor. He says, Miss, he says, come in here a minute, please. She comes in. He says, will you check and see if my testicles are black? He says, what? He says, will you please check and see, are my testicles black? She says, I'm not a nurse, I'm just a volunteer. You'll have to get a nurse. Please, miss. And he begs and begs, and finally says, okay. She throws back the bedclothes, throws back his nightgown, grabs him, lifts him straight up by the wee-wee, and looks underneath and says, your testicles are not black. He says, you did a wonderful thing for an old man. He says, that's such a wonderful feeling. It's delightful, but I still don't know. Are my test results back?